The Full-Time Review is supported by and brought to you by Saltire Energy, the global market leader in specialist drilling equipment rental. And by Craig International, game-changing procurement efficiency trusted by the global energy industry. With offices worldwide and more to come, Craig International continues to be a market leader. It was nothing but a horror show yesterday at Celtic Park as the Dons came away with a humiliating 6-0 defeat. The lack of energy, bite, passion and a willingness to compete has been met by many a disillusioned Aberdeen fan. We now have a 2-week international break before we come back with a very difficult run-in leading up to Christmas. So it basically means that after yesterday's defeat, we drop down a place to 9th. The only saving grace is that we have a couple of games in hand above the teams directly above us. Hi everybody, a very good evening and a very warm welcome to Ali Beg ABTV this Monday night. This is the Full-Time Review show, and I have to admit, I've been dreading it all day. Tonight, this is very simple. What I'm going to do is just leave the floor completely and utterly open for you guys to have your say on yesterday's performance. So I know that, and I include myself in this, that there are many, many angry Aberdeen fans out there after yesterday's showing at Celtic Park. So, with that in mind, try not to let your emotions run away with you too much tonight when you leave your comments. I'd be very grateful if you wouldn't use bad language, as tempted as you probably will be. And obviously, as you always do, just try and leave your comments as respectful as possible, particularly if you interact with others who come on the platform tonight. So if you're watching for the very first time, how are you doing? You are more than welcome, and you are more than welcome to join in the debate tonight. So I'm just going to leave the floor completely and utterly open, and I will try and read out as many of your comments as I possibly can tonight. No time limit on tonight's show, so we'll just see how it goes. So I've been thinking long and hard about how to introduce tonight's show, and there is absolutely no, as most of you know, I'm an extremely positive person and I always look for the positivity in everything, but there is absolutely no point coming on tonight's show and trying to insult your intelligence and pull the wool over your eyes by doing anything but being angry about yesterday's game, because it was simply unacceptable. No Aberdeen team should be, in the modern age, should be losing a game by a 6-goal margin after we saw what happened last season. No Aberdeen team should be losing by that type of margin. It was just a humiliating and appalling performance all over. And I'm so shocked by the Jekyll and Hyde feel about our team at the moment, because I sat here on Saturday gushing about the performance in Greece and how well we played and how brave we were and how we put our bodies on the line to get a point out of that game. Yet fast forward 4 days and it's absolutely mind-boggling how we can play so well in one game, yet so appallingly bad in the very next game. So let's try and dissect it and let's try and make some sort of sense of it if we can. But I have to be honest, I'm just baffled by all of it. And this Jekyll and Hyde nonsense has got to stop. Otherwise, we are not going to improve. and it's going to become more and more difficult. We have an incredibly difficult set of games coming up in a very short period of time. Some very important games coming up, and something has to give here. There has to be changes. And I'm not talking about the manager. I'm not talking about that. I am still, as I've said to you before, and again, I'll be very transparent with you. I am still very much in the Barry Robson camp. But as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago in a column that I wrote, I'm not pressing the panic button, but I'm hovering. Last week, I pulled that finger well and truly away. After yesterday, I'm like, my God, I'm placing it back, and I'm literally doing this every single second week, and it has to stop because it's not healthy for the team. So first and foremost, let's address the side that Barry put out. And I have to admit, I saw him playing the back five. We predicted it during the preview show that we thought he'd play the back five. But I was surprised that he started with Johnny out left. Now, I mean this with the greatest respect to Johnny, who's a fantastic bloke and who has been a brilliant servant to our football club. But I'm not sure Johnny is now at that stage in his career where he should be starting huge games against Celtic at Celtic Park. Unfortunately, his performance yesterday was nowhere near the standards that he has set himself. And unfortunately, it showed during his performance. Bojan was completely and utterly isolated, for 100 minutes. 100 minutes he played up there by himself yesterday. And I just felt changes needed to be made, which I shall come to. So this is what Barry said after the game. Not good enough, every aspect. That's for me, the staff, everyone. We never started the game well. First 15 minutes, poor, not getting close to anyone. Second half, we got them in, told them to get a bit closer to them. We got a bit closer to them for 15 minutes, but after that, we weren't good enough. So, again, the use of the squad is becoming a worry and a concern, that directly after a European game where he's got a number of players at his disposal and he continually doesn't use them. And yesterday, and I've written about this in my latest column for the Herald, which will be available in the next 24 hours, I felt at half-time it was crying out for one, if not two changes. And where I felt we looked particularly fatigued was at the back yesterday. And we put in one hell of a shift on Thursday night to keep Pauk out. And from the very first whistle yesterday, we put ourselves on the back foot and we invited them to come and have a go at us. Which meant the entire back line was just under constant pressure for 100 minutes. There was never there was no time for them to breathe. Let's put it that way. The first goal for me was just, I've watched it. I've not looked at all the goals today because I just couldn't face it. But I wanted to watch the first goal because the first goal killed us. Dante Palvaro has got to learn, because I think he's very guilty of this, of being so much stronger against his immediate opponent when he has to defend. He allows his immediate opponent to go past him far too easily. He doesn't get his body in the right, he doesn't angle himself correctly to defend the ball. He was very guilty of it on Thursday night, and he was extremely guilty of it yesterday. So the boy goes past Dante with ease. He then goes past Nicky with ease. So he's beaten two of our players with ease. He gets the ball, he fires the ball in across the 6-yard box, which is Kelly Roos's area. And he should be commanding that area. Yet he's completely flapped at the cross. And the boy gets what for me was a free header, where I felt Jack was a little bit flat-footed. and hadn't prepared himself for the ball to get across. And for me, the first goal absolutely killed us. And my brother was over for the weekend, and I turned to him, I went, I can't believe this, it's game over already. And then the second goal, and then I'm just like, and I felt so sorry for the travelling support yesterday again. So I personally think yesterday, at halftime, he should have made some changes, be it Stefan Gartenman, or Slobodan Rubezic to come off and Angus MacDonald to go in, to give us that fresh legs, to just firm us up, because I thought, Slobodan for me yesterday, after what happened with Kyogo, when he was getting booed and all that, he was just playing up to the crowd. And it irritated me slightly, because I'm just concentrating on the game, mate, And as you know, I don't like to pick out individual players, but I felt there needed to be a change at half-time in our back line. I felt Connor should have come on first instead of Ryan Duncan, because I think Connor's energy, drive and enthusiasm on Thursday night possibly merited a starting berth yesterday. So yeah, I just think we got it wrong from the first kickoff, where Leighton played the ball all the way back to Kelly Roos, and he literally humped it out of play. And at the moment, I have an issue with Kelly Roos's distribution, because he must have hoofed the ball out of play yesterday at least a dozen times and killed us every single time. We just didn't play football yesterday at all. And all it did was invite more and more pressure. And it was absolutely doing my brain in yesterday. I was disappointed for was it the fourth goal, David Turnbull's goal? He was so flat-footed getting across his goal to try and save it. So yeah, we've got this international break for 2 weeks. 5 players are away on international duty, so he's got the majority of the squad to work with. And I seriously hope there was a very serious post-mortem in the halls of Cormack Park today, whether they got the day off today. If they got the day off today, then tomorrow. There has to be a post-mortem, because that simply cannot happen again. It really can't. I would like to show you the match stats for what it's worth, because unfortunately, they don't make for good reading, but I'm going to show them to you anyway. So they enjoyed 78% of possession, 78. They had 21 shots in total to our 3. They achieved 10 on target. We achieved just the 1. They conceded 5 fouls to our 8. We did not win a single corner in the game to their 11. So I don't know if you saw it yesterday, but there was an average player map. And our highest average player was actually Dante Palvaro on the halfway line. The halfway line was his average position, our highest forward in the game. The halfway line. No wonder we did not lay a glove on Celtic yesterday. How are we expected to compete when we play like that? And the issue for me is that we do it time and time again against Celtic at Celtic Park. And we're also guilty of doing it against Celtic at Pittodrie. Our recent results against Celtic, Barry's been in charge for 3 games, and the aggregate score has been Celtic 15, Aberdeen 0. For me, it's just disheartening. Anyway, as you can see, I'm pretty gutted tonight. Right, guys, let's get you on. Okay. So there are many angry fans on tonight, which is totally understandable, but I'm still going to read these comments out, because I think you deserve to have your platform to be able to have your say. So I'm going to read them all out. Kaiser's on first of all. Robson's time is up for me. Pathetic display after pathetic display, and yesterday was the most pathetic of the lot. Alan Nicholas said, "Hi everyone." Hi Alan. I just don't get how we can be so good one game, then so utter rubbish the next. Duncan Wright. Well, that was embarrassing, eh? So passive. It became a training match for Celtic. I never want to see an Aberdeen team play like that again. That was one thing I said to my brother yesterday when we were watching the game. This is a training match for them. Mark Smith has said, Scottish football is just not competitive and hasn't been since Champions League money. Does anyone really want to watch Livy v Rangers or Celtic Aberdeen? They are non-events. Alan Nicol came back to say, is it Robson's tactics? Are the players not doing what he wants? Robson goes on about tired players, but he has a squad, so why not use them? Mark Smith came back to say, not one manager at any other SPFL club has challenged the old firm in the last 20 years. Another manager changes nothing. He goes on to say, the third place team invariably has less than half the points of the top two. We have to stop kidding ourselves. Kaiser came back to say, Robson's tactics are sit in for grim death and hope the opposition misses their chances. I've never seen such a defensive-minded manager in my 36 years of going to Pittodrie. Paul Donaldson is here. Hi Paul, I hope you're well, fella. I left the stadium at 3-0. 15 goals conceded in the last 3 away matches I've been against Celtic. Don't think I'll be back there again. Totally unacceptable. As bad as anything in the mid to late 90s. He comes back to say, Paul, I don't know whether Barry Robson should be sacked or not. I think it's the wrong time of the season to change the manager. We can't just keep sacking manager after manager, but something has to change. Kevin Turner is on. Hi, Kevin. I don't like slating my team, but that yesterday was pathetic. I'd rather match them tactically and get beat 6-0 than play like that. A lot of it must be down to what's been instructed from Barry. Let me come back up. Sorry, bear with me. So let me just drag that down. Gosh, lots of you on tonight. Sorry, just let me get back to where we were. Oh my goodness, there are so many of you on tonight. Kaiser came back to say, I wanted rid of Robson after the Kilmarnock game. This poor performance is no flash in the pan. We're into November now, and it's obvious this is what the season's looking like under Robson. He goes on to say that Kelly Roos is also, he needs to be dropped. Alan Nicholas said, Kelly Roos, how many times has he kicked the ball out or boot it to the opposition's goalkeeper? Baz Cruz has said, the kicking from Roos is absolutely dire. The constant need to long throw is crazy. I left yesterday at 3-0 when we sent Jensen up to hurl one in. Kaiser said, I thought the days of getting thumped from Celtic were over. Obviously not. Baz came back to say, Robson needs to trust his team and give minutes to the boys he is leaving on the bench. Kaiser said that we've got some cracking players in that squad, but Robson is not getting the best out of them. Laura 101 has said, at least poor old Vinny made the bench this game. Kaiser said, with the standard of player we have, we most definitely should be going to Parkhead and give Celtic a right go. This is my issue. We never, ever go to Celtic Park and give it a go. And that's my big, big issue. A lot of you are commenting about how worried you are that Bojan will want to leave in January. And with Duke potentially going away to the Africa Cup of Nations, it's going to leave us very short up front. Baz Strachan has said, evening all, a shocking embarrassment of a display. So many issues and questions to be answered. Displays like that certainly will have an effect on the folk thinking about cup final tickets. Gary Bjorkeland is on. Hi Gary, I hope you're well. We are not learning the basics, especially in defending. Jack Bruce has said, getting to the final is paper over the cracks. This keeps happening. Robson out, he says. Sager Saturn lad, good evening. This should be interesting, what we have to say. The only benefit for me being an English Don is not living north of the border and having to see that dross everywhere. Turned it off after 15 minutes. So at one point yesterday, so I sat with my brother and my two boys and watched that game yesterday. And at 4-0, my wife came in and she said to me, why are you so quiet? She goes, I've never seen you so quiet when watching Aberdeen. And then she glanced at the score and she went, ah. And I just said to her, I just can't believe what I'm watching. It's just stunned me into silence. And I'm not like that when I watch football, when I watch Aberdeen. As most of you know, rather passionate. But yesterday I was stunned into silence because I just couldn't believe what I was watching. And I don't think I was the only one. Paul Donaldson has said, as much as Johnny Hayes has been a great player for us for many years, sadly I think we're seeing the end of him as a player, but he still has a lot to give the club on the coaching youth side. I completely agree. Graham Klein has said, good evening all. Unfortunately, the league results this season have not been good enough. If they followed the European form, we should be up near the top. Baz Cruz has said, I think there's a good striker in Sokler too, but Robson refuses to give the boy minutes. He needs to give these boys, time on the pitch. You know, yesterday, you know, Bojan's just chasing shadows. That's all he's doing. The poor lad just ran himself into the ground. And I just felt, you know, if you chuck Sokler on, then, it's just, first and foremost, it just gives Bojan just that, takes away his, you could see in his body language how frustrated he was. You know, how he was, there was a couple of times he was asking the midfield players to sort of push up a little bit more. And when they weren't, you could see him sort of rolling his arms and his head in sort of frustration. I genuinely felt so sorry for him yesterday. The Mad Ferret has said, yesterday was a total shambles. John Kilo has said, Robson doesn't kick any balls. It's the players that lost 6-0, not the manager, whatever the tactics. Dennis Shand has said, sleepwalking to relegation, just like United last season. Scott Bowie has said, games in hand mean nothing. If we continue with Barry, we will be bottom by Christmas. John Bleasdale is on. Hi, John. I hope you're well, fella. This acceptance of defeat every time we go to Parkhead over the past couple of decades, except that 1-0 win when Celtic had a cup final in mind, is shocking. Absolutely sick of it. Yeah, John, completely agree. I do not think you are the only one thinking that. Paul Mathewson has said, same old against them. No wonder Sevco fans say we only try against them. Shambles. Terry McDermott is on. Hi, Tel. I hope you're well, pal. Absolutely brutal. There are clearly fundamental flaws with the manager and players. You can't keep getting plaudits for solid displays that are followed up by abject failure. Completely agree. Scott Farquhar has said, beginning to think this only turn up against Rangers is true. Utter dog meat. Why does Robson use same subs all the time? Why not change it differently? Utilise what we have. The guy's out of his depth now. And he says, out. So in terms of this, and again, I've written about it today, in terms of this, we only raise our game against Rangers. So I saw a stat today. So since season 2016-17, we've played them 31 times. And in that time, we've only won 7 times. So don't give me this nonsense that we raise our game against Rangers, because we don't. The Mad Ferret said, no one can defend that performance yesterday. I completely agree. Michael Taylor has said, poor showing, gutless, absolutely awful. But we've seen this on far too many occasions this season domestically, completely embarrassing. And as you say, Ali, unacceptable. John Moore is here. Hi, John. It's the consistency that's awful. One good game, then the next is awful. It can't keep going on. It's a huge budget squad compared to most. Barry isn't getting the most out of them. Squad rotation is horrendous. Ewan Grant. Hi, Ewan. Evening all. That was a nasty showing, he said. There's obviously a gulf in finances, but I'm worried about our record down there. I'm a positive guy too, but the lack of competitiveness was unacceptable. Andy B said, we were set up to fail yesterday. We cannot sit so deep and hope for the best. Gordon Keith Ritchie said, shocking performance at the moment. Phil McLean has said, fair enough, we had tie legs, but that was embarrassing. 3 goals in injury time. By that point, I confess, at 5-0, I turned off. I just couldn't bear it any longer. So I've not seen the 6th goal. I just couldn't bear it any longer. Michael Taylor has said, yeah, I'm not so sure, mate. I take your point, but I'm not so sure. Graham Mundy has said, Barry seems to be unable to change things. Start with ditching the back 5, extra body in midfield, 2 up top, better use of subs. I fear the time is running out for Barry. Actually, Graham, I'm kind of with you with that. I actually wondered at half-time, excuse me, whether he needed to go to a flat back 4 and put an extra body in midfield to try and basically combat their just relentless attack, because we were so deep yesterday. It was just, and we couldn't get out. We were just camped in. And I wonder if by putting an extra body in that midfield would have just given us some respite from the onslaught. And if we just went to that flat back 4, I very much had the same thoughts, Graham. Suze said, as we said last time, we never know what Aberdeen team will turn up on the day. Did not expect this dreadful performance, though. Paul Mathewson has said, if you go to Celtic Park and try and park the bus, they will eventually break through. We'd rather see us 3 or 4-0 and have a go than have that type of performance. Kaiser93 has said he actually disagrees with me about the Jekyll and Hyde scenario. He says we've been murder for 90% of the season. Elfie Dello has said, hi Elfie, I hope you're well. He says, she says, good evening everybody. The football at the moment is as bad as anything we had under Goodwin. We have decent players in the squad, so why does he not play them to their strength? Bojan Majowski is not a lone striker. Stuart Wilson is here. Hi Stuart, evening. For me it was straight from kickoff. To sit deep and play 5-4-1 and allowing them to dictate the play said it all. Even the commentary stated the Dons are looking to hit on the counter. George Webster said, we have only played good football in the league 3 times this season. 4-0 County, 4-1 Motherwell, 3-1 Rangers. Europe, we have played well. George Findlay said, Europe has been our Achilles heel this season. Good to get the money for Europe, but league form is suffering. Mark Smith has said, can't have Johnny taking the blame for that catastrophe. They win and lose as a team and they were all garbage. So, Mark, you're absolutely right. And I certainly didn't, the intention was not to pick out Johnny as just the one individual player. Far from it. I totally take your point. It was a team effort yesterday. And yeah, to a man, we just didn't cope at all. Scott Robertson has said, Robson set them out there to fail. We've done the sit off them and give them the ball so many times before and it doesn't work. Bearing the odd result, I think we've been grim for most of the season. Baz Cruz has said, why does Angus MacDonald get 0 minutes after his performances last season? I agree. I'm also completely baffled by that. Paul Donaldson said, Vinny was on the bench and got a good reception from the fans during his warm-up. Why not throw him on when we're already a couple of goals down? Really nothing to lose by giving him some match time. I'm starting to think that way as well. You know, I have it on good authority that he has a bit of an attitude problem in training and all that sort of stuff. And whether that's still in evidence at the moment, I really don't know. but I understand there were issues with him training. But I'm now at the stage where, like, he's a creative player, and we desperately need creative players to make something happen. Because again, yesterday, I cannot remember one single ball being crossed into the box, not one. And from, as I've said time and time again on here, when we don't get balls into the box, we're just not at it, and it kills us every time. George Webster said his inability to use the squad players he's brought in not being used baffles me. Yesterday's inability to change the shape when the game was running away from us. I love how so many of you can still retain your sense of humour. Said Vinny did some lovely stretches yesterday. Gareth Mackey said Barry has had his run, but it has come to an end. Lots of money spent on new players, not getting minutes. The tactics and lineup proved it. 100% agree about Hayes. A short-up sub now at most. Sousa said, we need an experienced manager with Glass, Goodwin and Robson. I think we've been signing inexperienced managers, and I'm beginning to think that's what the board want, a yes man. Paul Herd has said, Ali, I'm not too far behind you on the positivity front, but we're either playing defensive football and playing on the break or just not at the raceord. He is scunnered. Gareth Mackey, thank you for that, for your message. Thank you, mate. Jason Campbell has said, results like 6-0 are going to become more and more common with each passing season, and also with each passing 40 million from Champions League money for Celtic to pull further and further away. Kaiser's really not happy tonight, mate. And I'm totally with you, fella. Sega Saturnland's asking, what on earth's going on with Papa Gay, Angus MacDonald, and the lad from Liverpool? Your guess is as good as ours, Sega Saturnlad. Paul Mathewson has said he seems reluctant to change formational players. Roos's kicking is atrocious. Alan Suter said, forget about the 2 remaining European games and play reserves, kids. Need to focus on league and cup final, or come Christmas, we could be in crisis again, on a tightrope with league position. I'm actually, do you know, Alan, I think that's a good point. But 2 games out the competition mean nothing. Rotate the squad and give some of the lads some time and see what they can do. Because those are the games where they mean nothing, where you can chuck them in and let them prove their worth. Yeah, it's a good point, Alan. Baz Cruz said, Robson doesn't help himself. He doesn't trust the squad. Ends up playing same 13 players. John Moore comes back to say, for me, this result is as bad as Darvel. Embarrassing. The stats against Celtic are horrific and must be among the worst of any SPFL teams. Hayden Ritchie's here. Hi, Hayden. Sat too deep from kickoff. Absolute shambles. Peter Scott has said, Celtic expect teams to go to Parkhead and sit in and counter so they know exactly how they're going to play. All Celtic need to know is who's in the opposing team lineup and check for no surprises. Gareth Mackey said, it was horrible to hear the booing prior to the game too. Absolute disgrace. Also, can't believe Roos thought he'd get away with kicking up the pen spot. Stupid yellow to get and childish attitude. Yeah. Peter Scott, he came back to say we should have been more attacking. Gosh, shouldn't we just, mate? Okay, where are we? Sorry, bear with me. Just going through this, just bear with me. Graham Munday said, how can we change manager and players frequently and we always go there already beaten before we start? Mark Smith said, if we play like that against Sefco in the final, another disaster beckons, and we will be coming off a Frankgate game though. Surely reserves play that one. Yeah. Adam Cranny's here. Hi Adam, I hope you're well, mate. Yeah, the game yesterday was shocking. Barry shouldn't be in the manager's job for very much longer, he said. Colin Lindsay said, I turned off after the first goal. I saw how the team was set up and knew what was coming. Disgusted. Johnny Maynard said, Barry Robson out. No Aberdeen manager should survive a result and performance like that. Richard Knowles has asked, what would the manager's position be now if we weren't in the cup final? Alexander Wallace has said, why can our captain not play full 90 minutes? What is wrong with Clarkson? He's lost everything that was good about him last year. I agree. Leighton's been he's been a disappointment for me, but I do sympathise with him because I don't think we're playing him to his strengths. And for Shinza, I just think, I don't know. I just don't think. See, this is why sometimes I wonder when, like even yesterday, maybe even Shinza could have been benched and come on at some point. I think I made the point a few days ago about after a big European game that I'm not sure that Graham has got 180 minutes in him in the space of 4 days, but I do think he's got maybe a half in him. I don't know. I could be wrong. A lot of you are saying, why didn't we just change it up, even at 3-0 down, just give some of these lads playing time? Frank McBeath said, I have an issue with recruitment policy. Who sanctioned Papa Gay's transfer at 550,000? At that price, he should be walking into Aberdeen's team, or Dadia, or where is he? Recruitment for me is a problem. A lot of you think that Barry has trust issues by not using his squad. Sean Simpson has said, Robson must go. Okay. Sega Saturn Lad has said, on the positive, we have a lovely away top this year. Oh dear. Mark Smith said, it's just so depressing. Someone says something cheerful. It really is. Right, guys, I'm going to call it a night. So, yeah. Sorry it was a wee bit flat tonight, but, just... As I said to you at the top of the show, I desperately wanted to try and be positive about it, but it just can't. It's just impossible to be positive about a performance and a result like that yesterday. And I'm absolutely not going to sit here and insult your intelligence by trying to do anything otherwise. I'm just as angry as you are. So we have a couple of weeks now until the next league game against Rangers. So the plan over the next couple of weeks is I'm still going to continue doing shows during the week. We'll do some sort of catch-up shows, hoping to bring you a sort of a one-on-one interview as well. I'm just working on that at the moment. Had that all planned, obviously, before I went into hospital, so I've had to sort of put that on the back burner, but I'm hoping to get that done again in the coming days. So just keep an eye on the socials as normal, but I would like to come back and do sort of a midweek special or a weekend special or something like that, just to keep us ticking over, see how you're all doing. Once the sort of the dust has settled. So look, take great care of yourselves. Thanks ever so much for watching tonight. Have a great week, and I will hopefully see you very soon. Take care. Bye for now. Stand free.